Hi, I'm Doreen Nando, and you are on Springboard, your virtual university.
Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Okran, welcoming you on behalf of Team Springboard, ably led by Comfort. Springboard is your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. Your virtual university is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the enterprise group UMB Bank, with support from the graphic business. That means that on Tuesday, on page 18, you will find a full transcript of this all-important conversation we are about to have. For some time now, we've been looking into the engine room with frontliners in various fields to find out the what, the why, the where, the who, the how, the pain, the tears, the tough calls they've had to make on their journey, what you won't find in any magazine or biography. We've had a privilege of hosting in this series Diana Hamilton, Israel Laye, Anita Eskin, Ajeti Anand, Kwame Eugene, Ohenere Gifty Auntie, and Doreen Ando. Today, I bring somebody I've been patiently waiting to interview for quite a while. The last time I met her, she interviewed me on her show on an inspirational segment. Today, I am interviewing her on my show in the engine room. Between then and now, we've met a few times with my family eating wachi at the dining table from her kitchen. You have an idea, but you don't know who. My guest for today, Rashida Saani, Nasamu. Rashida, good to see you.
Good to see you, Albert.
Thanks for making time for this conversation.
You're welcome. I needed to have had a sip so I will get less turbulent inside. I've not done this in a long time.
You are safe and secure on the show. I tell you what, between the first time I considered having you on the show and now, so much more has happened because your business has grown from a food supply chain to a conglomerate with communication, consultancy interests, construction, skills development, media, and IT. Growing up, did you think that you would be an entrepreneur?
Well, I think even research has proven that a good percentage, I'm not so sure how many percentages or what percentage may just be involved in this, but research has highlighted that a good percentage of entrepreneurs did not know they were going to be entrepreneurs. It just happened. But ideally, in an entrepreneurial journey, typically very wealthy people or successful people would usually package a story that has simply got to go with the entrepreneurial journey. So in a long story cut short, I would like to say my spirit has been the fact that I come from an entrepreneurial family. My dad literally died on the job, I would like to say, even at the age of...
What was his interests?
He sold hardware, paint, nails, and a whole other unconventional stuff. He actually was in the informal sector. And he would go to his shop really early in the morning, close late, pray, eat, everything there. And all of us who finished school and awaited our results had to actually do our kind of service or attachment in his shop. And that was where the ideas actually were conceived, and being practical and smart and being able to divide or put eggs in different baskets or get focused on different things you're up to. So all of that was conceived actually there at a very tender age.
I have a couple of guests who advocate this as a compulsory coaching requirement for children.
Sure.
One was Moses K. Baden, CEO of Margins. His father, growing up, was one of the icons in Takrady.
Right.
He also dealt in hardware, among others, and very heavy-duty stuff. And he made it a requirement for his children during vacation to come and work in his outfit. And not surprisingly, many of them are doing some very entrepreneurial stuff, leadership in various fields. Then my friend, Kama, Dr. Ajekum Ado, now Mikado Ventures, also says his children all had to do either tailoring, fitting.
Right.
And then he runs a big pharmaceutical outlet, and he also believes that children must be taken through these to sharpen the entrepreneurial
I think it's very
instincts?
important. My daughter just finished her attachment in my office, actually. I know my children quite well. One is quite cool, the other likes the good life. And when I told her she was going to actually work in my office, she proposed it, actually. Mommy, I want to work in your office. Since I'm on holiday, it's such a long holiday.
Which of the offices did you take her to?
I took her to Waiza, the corporate office. I didn't take her
You
to
should
the...
have taken her to the food supply
Wache,
chain.
she actually has a greater feel of Wache because virtually on weekends, I usually would take them there, especially when they're on holiday. So apparently she thought she was going to have a ride with the CEO to the office. My mommy is the CEO, kind of an attitude she was actually planning to put up. I got her picked up by the office car. She sits right in the common area with other staff. She doesn't even get to speak to me. She doesn't greet me. She doesn't call me mommy in the office and all of that. So in the end, she was like, oh my God, mommy, I can't believe it. My attachment has come to an end and I'm so happy about that. I mean, she just had to undergo that. I didn't even want my people in the office, my staff, to know she was my daughter. But one thing led to another. And then they got to know, but it still did not prevent her from gathering the real life experience I actually wanted her to have before she grows up thinking, well, mommy's business, it can easily be transferred and management becomes an issue. So I think it's very important for kids to undergo such training as well.
Great.
Before they stand on their feet.
Great. Let's start from the food business.
Right.
Many people know not Aiza, the conglomerate,
I
but
know, right?
Alhaji's wife, the Wachi. You moved out of frontline media practice to go and sell Wachi. Tell me about it.
Well, I think philosophers will say to you that in every discourse, there's supposed to be a representation of all schools of thought. I'll say in a spiritual sense, it was the grace of God that just created a leap. In practical sense, I think it just made sense because I thought a multiple stream of income was very important, as always prescribed by people like you. So I thought, if I am getting an edifice like this, what's the best thing I should just be selling? I've had quite a number of friends who said to me, well, you
had a building?
It wasn't mine, even though we're into construction.
Okay.
But this Watcher building, actually, we rented it. I saw that it was just there close to my home.
Okay.
And I wondered what I could just use it for because I saw that it had been empty for some time and was right across the street, which was a very prime area. So I sort of identified it as a prime location for business, which was the reason why we actually thought we should engage in something retail, not the usual corporate stuff as usual. So taking a good look at things, I thought we should be doing something that was essential. Food is essential. People eat on a daily basis at all hours. And that was the inspiration, actually. That was the reason why. Another reason why is because I cook a lot. People who are very close to me know I'm such a big chef in the kitchen. When I have visitors at home, the first thing I do is to pop into the kitchen. So it was actually a suggestion from my family as well. I think you could do well in a restaurant because you cook a lot at home.
Should people commercialize their hobbies?
I think it's very important to commercialize your hobby because to be in a job you have no interest in makes it mundane, people have usually said. So there should be a kind of great sense of interest in your job for you to be able to do well in the first place. If you're in it because of the money or because you're just being a servant, I think it gets more difficult for so many people who have ventured into income-making ventures.
So let's talk about the response of your audience.
Right.
Because it could have been rice, it could have been yam, it could have been gari and beans,
Or
it could have
tease
been food, or tease it. What about Wachi? I am a very curious person and I always want to understand what about Wachi made you go for it? And with the benefit of years of doing it,
Right.
Were you right?
I'm yet to have an encounter with people who abhor Wachi. I think Wachi gradually has become a delicacy that also represents a destination brand image for our dear country, Ghana. There are quite a number of people. I mean, you would hardly hear people go out of the country and miss TZ. Kenke, yes, they do. But Wachi usually will take a greater expectation of what people may just be missing. Wachi is gradually turned into breakfast, lunch, or even dinner 2 days ago, I had wachi. It wasn't my wachi though. I just decided to try another wachi joint. I was just doing some kind of market survey. I got wachi for 45 cedis, and that would have been a representation of wachi for 20 cedis from Alhaji's wife. So it was just, I enjoyed it anyway, but it wasn't as tasty as Alhaji's wachi. So wachi, because growing late, people are beginning to have this keen interest. People eat wachi in the morning, people eat wachi in the afternoon. It's such a great meal, you can't get wrong. Wachi because it's food, and it's food that is consumed by a greater number of people in Ghana, even outside of Ghana. I have Chinese as customers. I have people who come from America. I have people who stay in America and even order it for people over here as sort of surprises for them and so much more.
My friend Kofi Akpabli writes very interesting books and poems and stories about food. I think he should write one about wachi.
The former presidential candidate?
No, Kofi Akpabli, not Akpabli.
Akpabli.
He writes with my friend Anadamwa. He's a partner to my friend Anadamwa, but Akpabli writes he's written about soup, he's written about very interesting. I think he does some tourist writings.
Right. I think I've had quite a number of people. I get so many of my reviews from people who are mainly into writing about food. And I also had a guest researcher who actually, I think he may have come from Harvard in Massachusetts, and he was a visiting lecturer on the University of Ghana campus at the business school. And he was actually brought by one of my trainers, Prof. Henson. And he did
Prof's a very good friend of ours.
Yeah, he's a good customer of mine as well, and trainer. I was in his class, and he virtually has been part of my training as far as entrepreneurship is concerned.
Right. Just still on branding, you talked about wachi and you chose the words national brand, destination brand image.
Right.
Let me stay with branding. The name Alhaji's wife. The first time I heard it, Comfort mentioned it, I was like, oh. It just hit me like this.
Right.
What, from the perspective of somebody with postgraduate training in marketing, what drove the name Alhaji's wife?
I think branding is an essential part of every business. I would like to believe many people would have expected to see something like Russia's restaurant, Rimbel, Mirabelle, and all of those sexy, funny ideas people will usually have. That has been a driving force to many eaters, actually, to some eateries as well. I must confess, when I had it, and I hadn't made a preposition of selling wachi yet, most of my friends said to me, well, you travel a lot, you could stock some Louis Vuitton bags, you could also stock some Chanel bags and all of that. And my first question to them was, how many times do people actually walk into a shop to buy these? In any case, if I had a fake Louis Vuitton bag, how would you be able to tell? So what would be the point of gathering so much money? If I am not there yet, I believe that should be for people who have actually self-actualized. So food, because of this. However, how do I create a competitive advantage beyond the taste of the food? So the biggest surprise and big bang was when I unveiled my name, Alhaji's wife. It got everyone uncomfortable. I am yet to think about a single person who got comfortable with that. Even my kids had to come and ask me, Mommy, Alhaji's wife, that is so local. Today, my kids would actually prefer to be identified with that brand as opposed to the corporate image. And each time they are school bus, it works for them. And they get called Alhaji's daughter, Alhaji's son in their classes, and they're really proud of that. And they come home to tell me about that as well. I mean, so it really works. Alhaji's wife is such a heavy name. Everyone would want to know. And for most people who come to buy the watch, they're looking out for someone who's been set up by some big-time sugar daddy-ish looking Alhaji. Only to get disappointed when they meet me or they say Alhaji, you know. I am not even married to an Alhaji. I do not have an Alhaji. So they get really disappointed. My customers, most of my customers don't know this. But they get really disappointed when they come to meet me. Oh my God.
There is Alhaji's wife, but no Alhaji.
Watch it. Because they actually expected to come and see some typical Zongo participating woman who is not really been in corporate Ghana. So you go like, hey, my tree is not really good. You know, sort of.
So we are into a conversation about making agriculture. Let me divert a little. We are into a conversation currently with our partners about making agriculture more attractive, more funky, more exciting,
viable,
more innovative,
sure,
more aspirational for people who have come out of university. What lesson can we learn from what you just shared?
I think in as much as we need to take a keen interest in our kind of interest and commercialize them, I think we should disabuse our minds of the fact that it's got to be a white-collar job to be a comfortable job. I think most often, I hate to say this, my peers may not forgive me for this, but I think there are just so many people who are being absorbed by others. What do we do to ensure that we do something for ourselves? I was speaking to a gentleman who said to me, God forgive me, Rash, but I think poverty is a sin. Poverty in that sense. Look, you stay right there at home. My best friend actually said this to me. He says, we stay right there at home. Our mothers peel yam to cook, and the head of the yam, do you believe that it can be planted in our backyard to make a yam farm, and you do not even have to buy any seedling? So why would you sit being hungry? So I think it's time to demystify this and make unconventional or the informal sector quite attractive to ourselves while we are still very young and strong. So the thirst and penchant for white-collar activities, the suit and a tie, I would like to believe in the power of absorption by so many people into their organizations. It's just the reason why there are no jobs in the first place. Recently, I was reading Manasseh Azuri's timeline, and he wrote, I'm not sure if that you came across that as well. He says, the job market is choked, but there is vacancy for excellence. I don't know if you read deeply into that. It meant that you just needed some kind of skill. You didn't even need a skill. You just needed to think out of the box to be able to get yourself absorbed, to create your own kind of income. Also, it could have also meant that if you have substance, if you can prove yourself, if you can contribute positively towards the growth of an organization, if your CV looks interesting, if you are interacted with and you prove beyond reasonable doubts that you can do it better, why would you be staying at home?
Now that you mentioned this, I look back and I see, how many years ago was it that you were actually actively presenting in media work?
I think that my last media presentation was in 2013. Yeah.
So that was 8 years ago, thereabouts?
Yeah, more.
In between 2013 and
Right.
now, you've moved from being a media presenter
Right.
to a media owner amongst others. So now you run a conglomerate that includes media, that includes IT, that includes a food supply chain, that includes different business interests. You own the Ghana
Report.
Ghana Reports. In making that transition, what has been your greatest asset? What has enabled this journey?
My journey enabler has been the power to go for it. I do not procrastinate. The fact that if you think is the right thing, you should actually go for it. Being ambitious, being productive of all of them, I think that one stands out pivotally. Being productive is supposed to be a vital of life. In as much as you're in the right senses, you're strong, in good health, I'd want to believe, especially for our ages, we're really still young people, why won't you be able to diversify? I'm not saying that I overly welcome or duly subscribe to the saying that you're supposed to put your eggs in different baskets. I also believe the school of thought that purports that you can put your eggs in one basket and keep an eye on the basket. That makes you stay focused as well. But if you can do it differently and will increase your stream of income, why not? If you still have the capability, if you're strong enough, if you're ambitious, why not? If you can create more jobs of particular interest to me, why not? And this has actually been my springboard.
I love the way in which you ended your springboard. Did you ever find times, Rashida, where you were broken by failure, challenges, setbacks? Did you lose everything at a point? Have you ever gone through uncertainty and fear and failure?
I think many entrepreneurs will say to you, unless of course if they're telling you the truth, failure, uncertainty, crashing, breaking is supposed to be a daily affair in the life of an entrepreneur.
Tell me about your experience.
Anticipation of failure is success on its own. If you're moving, that's why people say to you, I wish you a rough road. Some people welcome it. Others say, what do you mean by you wish me a rough road? A rough road in the sense that there's got to be some potholes in the road so you can meander your way through smoothly until you get to the finish line.
Have you lost all your money before?
Nah. I have lost money. I have lost money in some business ventures. I've also just lost money, but not all my money. For instance, I took rent from 2 of my houses. I took it to London, kept all in a bag, and I was shopping, and someone just picked it off me. Yes, I have lost that kind of money before, and I was so stranded because I had my card, everything in the bag.
Did you cry?
I never did I cry at all.
Do you cry?
I believe in God. I cry a lot, if not on a daily basis. I'm very emotional. I cry over nothing. I could cry over the cleaner of my company, just over a misbehavior I have spoken about over time. It makes me cry for him, but he will never see me cry.
What kind of person are you?
I'm just a normal person like any other woman.
Everybody thinks you're normal.
Unfortunately, I'm not afraid or shy to say I'm not as strong as I may present myself on the front line of business. However, socially, I think I am quite feeble sometimes. I am very soft.
It's a complex mix of the strength of a businesswoman and what you call feeble or emotional of a person behind. How do you carry both in one body?
I think it's normal to have both in one body. People get emotional. But the power of how you exhibit emotions just simply makes the difference. I hate people who get emotional on the job, actually. For instance, when I call a staff member to deal with them and they get emotional, it puts me off. I like us to deal with the issues. I like you to stand up to your responsibility.
You're a larger than life person. When you confront somebody with their failures or their shortcomings and you do it in a forceful manner,
I think typically I have grown on the job. I mean, back in the day, during my very early stages as an entrepreneur, I didn't know how to do it. I could walk into the office and ask people why they are late. Why are you late? Okay, so you can go home, but you can't do it anymore. You got to go through some laid down procedure. There's got to be HR that comes in, or the general manager. It's got to be procedural. So I do not even go to the office anymore. I don't know what they are up to. I get all of my feeds from my general manager. I believe in hierarchy. It's got to be that way. So I have sort of grown on the job. So people do not get the chance to even get that bad aspect of me, unless of course we're dealing with
is there a bad aspect?
Artisans. Sometimes it could be really bad. Sometimes you regret your actions. Sometimes you speak. It typically happens to me on construction sites. Tell
me about construction.
You know about artisans. Construction is a very turbulent investment I have ventured into. But I really have enjoyed it. I've gotten used to them. I can understand them now. You just have to jump into the psyche of these people. Think about what they think at particular points in time. For instance, I keep telling my administrator who didn't get it right with them some time ago. I said to him, look, if you need them at 10 a.m., tell them you need them at 7 a.m. But I wouldn't say this to someone in my corporate office. If it's 10, it's 10. If you're a minute late, you got to answer for it. A query will do the rest of the talk for you. So it basically would depend on which affiliate we're talking about. At the Ghana report, they're the bosses. I don't even have to speak to anyone. There was a time I was having a conversation with my HR manager, and I said to her, you never give queries. She's like, madam, they're just so prim and proper. They are too appropriate for my liking. So everyone is just correct.
Am I to understand
right
from the perspective of a group CEO that the same person managing the same conglomerate has to apply very different skills and rules and approaches when you are dealing with your construction staff, when you are dealing with your food supply chain staff,
exactly,
when you are dealing with your media staff?
Yes.
You are saying that your comms and media guys are on top of it.
On top of the issue. I would like to also believe that only inanimates do not change. Sometimes people come with an excess baggage of all manner of characters you would have to whip in shape in some cases. Other times, you just have to leave them to understand who they are. And mostly, I even learned from my own stuff. The trick is that I try to be a part of the genesis of every business venture we actually get into. So by being a part of it, you get to understand, you train people, and then it stands firmly. Not so many people think I don't go to Alhaji's wife anymore. I hardly would find myself there once in a while lately. But when it started, I served with them. I did everything with them until I got them properly standing. And the team, old ones had to withdraw for me to pick up people who were ready and certain with the vision. People I thought we could drive the whole of this to the finish line. And I think it's been a good team so far. In as much as we have bits and pieces of complaints. I'll be finding out from you
right.
a question a very determined young entrepreneur asked me today.
Right.
And I'm going to find out from you how you can be absent and yet present in a business that is dear to your heart. If you just joined us, this is Springboard, your virtual university. We are in the engine room with Rashida, Saani, Nasamu, the CEO of the Isaac Group. Is that the name? Isaac Group. But I am so hung up on one of your brands. I'll try to stay away from that so I can get a full picture. But I can't help say that I am a big fan of Alhaji's wife, Wachi. And that's just because of one of my favorite scriptures of all time that says, in all labor, there is profit. And among other things, she's been saying that we need to reorient ourselves and demystify the informal sector so that people don't get hung up on going into white-collar jobs. Let's go for a break and pay some respect to our sponsors. When we come back, let's hear from Rashida other aspects of this amazing story. Please don't go away.
Don't be left out. Download the Pulse app from the App Store or Play Store to mash up all day, every day. You can also enjoy more mashup. Just buy the new Mega Bundle and get 3 gigabytes data, extra 400 megabytes for your social apps, and free MTN to MTN calls every Monday. So go ahead, feel the Pulse on MTN Pulse. Just be. We're good together. Everywhere you go.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation. Over the past 45 years, we've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
So Springboard, your virtual university, is on Joy FM on online every Sunday evening. Rockstar Africa number 1. We didn't come here to play HDs. Bye.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group UMB Bank, with support from the graphic business. Today in the engine room, I have the honor and privilege of hosting my friend Rashida as she tries to help us understand the ins and outs of her life as an entrepreneur. She's been sharing first that it must be a good practice for parents who run businesses to let their children come and do some internship or some attachment to learn on the ropes while they are in school. Number 2, she says, you must commercialize your hobby, and she loves cooking. It was a natural progression for her to build her first business, Alhaji's wife, Wachi. The third point she made was about branding. She says Wachi is a national destination brand image. It was too powerful. It was too powerful. She says it's not just food, it's a national asset. And she has clients from all over the world who buy from her food supply chain. Then she talks about choosing a name for your business. She says the name was thoughtfully and deliberately chosen, and it struck a chord with many people. Many people were initially offended, but now they look back and they say, wow, it was very well chosen. So choosing a name for a business, it requires a lot of thought. She says, demystify the informal sector and make it more attractive and less compelling for people to go into the formal sector or be even unemployed. I have a question for her on that one. And then she mentions procrastination. She says that if I like something, I go for it and I go decisively. And the 7th point is about managing people. The skills required to manage construction staff are very different from that required to manage comms staff and IT consultancy staff. Rashida, talking about unemployment, you mentioned the fact that there's no point hanging around unemployed and complaining when there's opportunity in the informal sector. I mean, in the course of our work over the past year and a half or so, we've seen many lose their jobs as a result of COVID, many displaced. There are many out there. You put out a small advert and 4,000, 10,000 applicants for the same job. And yet you hear people say, but there are jobs. Speak to that as an entrepreneur.
I think there are still quite a number of people, employees, who are actually looking for people to employ, in as much as the rest of us believe that the job market is choked. There's very little we can say about it because people management, they say, is the most difficult science. I am so young an entrepreneur to be speaking up to this, but I believe that if you have some sort of skill set, if you have something to offer, if you have a good attitude to wrap it all up, I would like to believe there should be something in the way for you. There are so many times most entrepreneurs like me have received quite a number of really juicy and sexy CVs, yet when the people sit before you, practically, they get underwhelming. And in some cases, you still want to give people a chance. And apathy sets in, not because they are ill remunerated, just because they're not used to it. Averagely, I would like to say, I don't want to say the youth, I would like to say some people are quite lazy, even if it were theirs. So my inspiration, or I have always drawn my inspiration from myself back then when I actually worked for people. It greatly felt like it was my own business. There's nowhere I have been to that I didn't shine, that I didn't stand out, that people didn't think I had some sort of shares in the organization, that I didn't become very close friends with management, even though I wasn't part of management. So I think good skill set, typically for myself, that's what I typically would look out for. Skill set, thinking outside the box, not necessarily only the skill set, because still can be taught, but there's got to be some headway. Or head start to it. So skill set, good attitude. Some people employ attitudes as well. What's the point? If you have the skill and you don't have the right attitude, you can't be mentored.
So you're saying that for many employers, they still are looking for people to employ, and what they're looking for is the right skills and the right attitude.
Perfect.
So for the person out there who's saying, I've given it a try, Rashida, I love listening to you, but trust me, I've applied. They won't even look at me to even test me and know that I'm good. What would you tell them?
I think it's very important to discover yourself. We were not all meant to be employed. Some of us were made to be employers as well. So you may just be an employer in the making, thinking you're an employee. So if there is not working, you look to the left. If the left is not working, you look to the right, back to the right, just as you're crossing the road. So I think it's very important. In typical cases, or most cases, I wouldn't leave off the hand of God. I mean, we're a very religious society or spiritual. Sometimes God just does not want you to work for some particular reasons. But speaking in practical sense, or ideally, I think if you have something to offer, you shouldn't go to bed hungry.
How can we create a culture of entrepreneurship in this country? How do we increase the number of people who have the boldness to just step out and try their hands at something?
I think to a large extent, it's not even about people who are very bold. I am very emotional, like I said to you, but I'm very bold when it comes to businesses. I think we shy off opportunities. We do not decode how many people actually get to crack the code of an opportunity when it shows an ugly head. Most of us run from it. Opportunities would not come with opportunity embossed on it. Sometimes it comes as a mystery. Now, how you turn that into an opportunity is what makes the difference. I was just speaking to Auntie Comfort some time ago about a friend of mine who said she was going to get into the food business. I've had quite a number of friends I completed school with who say to me, I am not working. I say to them, but I know you could cook very well. Come and sell water with me. She says, do you know the amount of capital? Because you have money, you've been able to open it, but the building does not even belong to me. I say to her, you can't just start from the first day of your journey and want to be like Papaya. Papaya does not belong to one person. I would like to believe it's a conglomerate that has quite a number of people who have shares in it. So it's even a limited liability. What I'm speaking to you about is sole proprietorship. Start cooking at home. There are quite a number of corporate women who do not know what to feed their families. Make it healthy. And by starting from that point, you should be able to gather money to be able to get to the papaya levels you may just be looking at for. So I think the bigger challenge or problem is the fact that we usually would want to leap to the 10th step instead of starting from the first step. It's got to be a baby step before it matures into a big step. If you can start big, why not? If you have all the money to get the biggest edifice and brand it the way you like, why not? But if there's no money yet, I think there's always a way to start off. I could clean shoes. I was speaking to my kids. I said to them, look, nothing should compromise the quality of life I have planned for you, even if it meant I lost it all. Do you believe that I could carry sachet water on my head into traffic in town? And my daughter said to me, yes, mommy. So I think there's always something to do.
Have you tried it? Did you ever carry sachet water?
I haven't done that yet.
I have.
But I tried.
It wasn't sachet water.
Right.
I tried selling ice water. It was bad.
Ice water days.
In those days, you know those Togolese buckets
Right.
that had was white and they had colors on it, orange, blue, and then they had this cover that had a handle. So it looked fashionable. So I actually, in secondary school days, carried the bucket and went selling ice water to try and see if I could raise some money. But there was only one problem. In those days, there was no COVID. And so it was actually one cup. The same cup you
everyone
fetch
drank from.
and then pour it, and then you give it to them, and the next person uses the same cup. But then there was one problem. There was this skill that the connoisseurs had. They would tilt the water while it's on their head and shift the cover small and then just fetch the water while the thing was still on their head and then pour it to the cup. I tried the Rashida.
It fell off.
Of course, the whole bucket came tumbling down.
You lost your capital for the day.
That was the end of my ice water, but at least I made one attempt.
Wow. It must be, I think it's quite easy these days. It's all packaged already. So
of course.
May we not go back there now. Amen.
I tell you, but it was just quite funny. But
right.
But you mentioned this, and my mind comes to something that Gipsy said on the show a couple of weeks ago. She said many people who want to step out and be successful have what she calls confusion.
Yeah.
Confusion because they are listening to Rashida and they want to become Rashida overnight. and yet they are matching that against the reality of their experience right now, and they are confused that what Rashida is describing and what I'm doing, how come I'm not getting the results that she's getting? Do you subscribe to that notion that people who are stepping out on their journey at the beginnings of a venture can get sometimes confused because they want what you have overnight?
Unfortunately, there are diverse things people may just be doing. It just, the biggest example I can think about is when we were in school, when others just passed their exams so well, yet you were out partying with them the previous night.
Yeah, I know about
exactly. That one. So it happens that way. People have always got something going on behind the scenes. For instance, when I was on TV, not many people knew that I owned Isaac Group. They thought I was just another presenter on TV.
Oh, you started before?
Yeah, I started way before I sat on TV at ETV when I started interviewing you. Fate brought us together, the management of ETV. I may not want to get into that, but it was all about business. And we still do business. We still call each other on business initiatives. I'm still in touch with my bosses and all of that. But I like to say sometimes people do just more than what you think they're doing. For instance, when I was at ETV, and you know my love for cars. Did I tell you about the story when someone said, hey, are you a car dealer? Do you have a husband who deals in cars? And I said to her, yes, because I didn't want to go into the intricacies of it. She may not understand. But each time I closed from my presentation, I thought it was just a whole lot of time for the rest of the day to have gone home to sleep with. I mean, seriously, in as much as I came out of home at dawn, but I thought I was still young and vibrant and hot-blooded enough to have gone back home at 10 a.m. That was just so not productive of me, I thought. So from ETV, I'd quickly rushed to my office. My office was quite close to where I did the presentation at ETV. So it was quite close. When each time I closed from ETV, I'll go to my office, do the rest of the day's job, get all of my jobs. There were times I even got into supplies, and I had so many projects that were ongoing. For instance, my Exim Bank project was ongoing. It was lucrative. It was good. I had so many other really blue chip organizations we worked for amidst presenting on TV. TV presentation was just part of the whole package that was supposed to support my business as well, in as much as I started in the media. So, I mean, sometimes there's just so much more going on, not just a particular job people are thinking about.
So you're saying that for many people that you will spot doing something, that's not necessarily all that they are doing. That could be just a foundational pillar for many other things that they are doing.
Exactly.
Rashida, this concept of multiple income streams, what, in your opinion, is the biggest trigger for creating more than one stream? What skill does one need to create multiple streams?
I think it's very important to have first the skill of wanting to be productive, as I've always mentioned. You do not have to be a lazy person. I think mostly people would want to over-enjoy than they actually earn. It's quite common to see the youth. I mean, some people get into productive businesses, and the first money that comes, he goes to buy himself the biggest or latest Range Rover or the latest cars, and then blocks his capital and all of that. I think you may have to get there when you really have actualized on the scale of things. So multiple streams of income, firstly, would have to be triggered by your power for productivity. You would have to be a very productive person. You do not have to be lazy. You would, that's when I begin to think that entrepreneurs are actually made or created by God. Because I find it really hard to believe that I come across people who do not just want to do anything, they just want to be employed. That's all they, I mean, different interests, people represent different interests, and bless them, I do not have a problem with that. But other people simply would just want to be productive and would not want to spend their time on unnecessary things. Typically, I account for everything about me, not just my time. I multitask. I'm always doing so many things at the same time. I keep saying to people that even when I'm in my washroom on a WC preparing for the day, I would have to be reading something, responding to emails, responding to messages I received.
Emails in the washroom?
Yes, when I'm on the WC. I'm so sorry about my language. I never set to just ease myself, just that, no. By all means, I would have to be in my email. I never go into the washroom without my phone. Sometimes, seriously? In order not to miss really important calls, I tilt it when I'm having a shower, just to see who is calling, especially when I'm late. The shower? Yes, sometimes.
I keep it intense.
I'm quite intense. I hate room for mediocrity.
Would you consider time, space, allowing just some time to not do anything as wasting the time?
It's very important to rest. The mind, the brains need some rest as well. And when I'm sleeping, I typically would time myself. However, I prioritize my life as well on a daily basis. I think just sitting down to ease yourself and watching the walls is a mark of an ill productive person, I would like to say. Or it's a mark of unproductivity. You can't just sit and watch the walls. That's when bad thoughts begin to come. Sometimes you need some you time. Typically, I have that when I go into my bed. You need a few minutes before you fall asleep, as adults as we are. Sometimes something pops into your head. If there are fantasies, you would want to have building castles in the air, fantasizing about going on holiday. You may do that just before you sleep, but not the other one.
If you did not become what you do now, with all your business interests represented, I'm going to give you 4 different career options. Tell me which one you would have ended up in. And stick to these 4.
I like to believe I would have ended up anywhere and my employer would have really been in love with me.
Let me give you 4 options.
Let's hear them.
Filmmaker is number 1.
I do not have the patience, I'm not sure.
Politician is number 2.
I love to stay behind the scenes.
Artist is number 3.
I wouldn't be able to get fictitious.
And dancer is number 4.
I suck with dancing. So none of the above.
None of the above.
I would have sold sachet water. I
Are
would
you
have sold
serious?
ice cream.
You'd have sold sachet water or ice cream.
I would have sold ice cream. I will sell sachet water and I'll diversify. I'll add ice cream.
Is food your favorite in your whole value chain?
Not necessarily. Essentials are actually my favorite. Because I would have thought that if I bought bags to sell or clothes, I'm not so much of a fashionable person. People who are close to me will attest to that. I hardly would buy clothes. My good bags were bought for me by people and all of that. I typically wouldn't be able to walk into a shop to do grand shopping like other girls would do. So that's the same thoughts I have over selling clothes. I have a feeling there are so many other people who are thinking that way. I don't even get the chance to make up and all that. So makeup would not have even sold if I had the chance to sell that one.
If I was to describe yourself in one word, what would it be? One word.
I think I'm a very zealous person. I am very passionate about everything I do. I attach the same passion I would attach to doing a story about the politician or the ordinary businessman on the Ghana report. I would attach the same response and attention to my client who picks a phone to call to order Wachi for a 20 cedis pack.
How easy or difficult is it to sustain this level of energy in everything you do?
It's difficult, I must say, but the passion keeps it going. The zeal to be a part of the business keeps it going. I may not be present at the business at particular times, but I can tell you everything that happens there. Occasionally, I flip my phone to see who is taking the money, who is serving the food, what's the attitude, how are people dressed. I know all of that. It's not just the money I care about. I go down to it's not like I micromanage, but I try to be, as much as possible, to be aware of everything that happens in the business. And that's the only way you can sustain a business and keep it going.
Have you ever found yourself with your back against the wall and an angel sent from God came to your rescue or your assistance that you sit here today and you say, thank God for that person?
All of the time.
Tell me about it. Give me an
All
example.
of the time. And these angels are usually people I see as my mentors who I speak to. I believe very much in the power of sharing your pain. I believe with the right people, of course. I believe in the power of, there are still so many people who are shy about saying they don't have jobs, they need help. There are people who would rather sit to beg for money from people who are doing well instead of saying, what can I do for you? Tell you what, I go to a car wash. I went to a car wash. I wash my car every morning before I use it anyway, unless, of course, under really bizarre circumstances.
You did yourself?
Yeah, often. And I went to a car wash. I mean, times that I'm late or I get lazy or I have to be doing something on my phone while I sit in the car and it's supposed to be washed. I mean, in the past, now I have someone who does it every morning for me at home. I went to a particular car wash and I got close to this group of people. And one of them said to me, I would want to be washing your cars at home. So can I start coming to your home? Instead of you coming to the car wash, he knows how much respect I have for my, I said to him, okay, come home. You can be washing them when you come home every morning. Apparently, he washed them for less than a month. As soon as he received his first pay, he said to me, Madam, you see, my passion was with music. I have a music career, and I know you know Sarkodie. So seriously, I said to him, oh, okay. The following day, he never came to work here, but he kept calling me to ask, so have you spoken to Sarkodie yet? I said, seriously, my brother, you haven't given me anything, so I can't give you anything. I need you in as much as you need me.
But you know sax.
Sorry?
But you know sax.
Yeah. Sakodo is a very good friend who is, he has open doors. You could just speak to him and stuff like that. As to whether he'll take him and groom me, I don't know about that.
But
I've never really been on such
terms
with him. And that was all. And this was because we were at the car wash, and I don't know what happened. I really don't know how he got to know. Anyway, the rest is history.
Rashida, I'm going to tell you what I've learned from this conversation and give you a chance to speak to somebody who's saying, I just love your story, but I wish I had something to say. And I want to be able to say something like this 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm going to come back to you to tell that person looking up to you, listening to you from any part of the country. Speak to them and tell them what they can learn from this and what they can do with this to be able to make an impact with their lives as we go forward into the future. But I'm going to tell you my 10 lessons from you, as is my custom. Number 1 is about business apprenticeship. And you see it's a great thing that must be very commonly applied, especially for parents who own businesses and for their children. The second one is wachi. You say commercialize your hobby. You say if you love doing something, commercialize it. And you love cooking, and that was the beginning. The third one is about branding, and you said 2 things about branding I found very, very interesting. You said wachi is a national brand asset, and you said even in choosing the name, a lot of thought went into choosing the name of your first business, which is Alhaji's wife, and that was very interesting. The fourth one is about demystifying the informal sector so that people don't queue looking for non-existing jobs and they can step out there and pursue the business or the opportunities that are in the informal sector. The fifth one is about your own attitude. I ask you about your greatest asset and you say you don't procrastinate, you just go for it. And I love that because somebody is listening and they can learn something from that. The sixth is about managing people. The difference between managing construction staff, IT staff, media staff, and the skills required for it.
Sure.
The seventh one is about entrepreneurship. You say, listen, if you keep applying and the door is not opening, maybe, just maybe, you need to switch from looking for a job to starting a business and creating jobs. The eighth is about multiple streams of income. You see, very often there is more to people than what you may see.
Yeah.
So you may see them doing one thing, but there are possibly multiple things they are doing that they are growing. And when these things manifest, you are like, where have they always been? They've been there. The ninth one is about accountability. One of the most interesting, you say you account for every time, including time in the washroom. And that could be the time when you are checking on something, even in the washroom. And the last one is zeal and passion.
Sure.
So you're a very passionate person, very zealous, and you apply it to everything you do, right from when you were employed till now that you are an employer. And if you didn't do what you do, you either sell sachet water
or ice cream. Or wachi, which I'm doing now.
And diversify. Rashida, take us home with your closing thoughts to close.
I think it's very important that people learn to discover themselves. It reminds me of a lady who walked up to me and said, what has been your business model? And this is a lady who has just finished university. And the first thing that came to mind was, she's learning the theoretical way. Ask me a more practical question. That was what I said. I said, what do you mean by business model? Okay, I want to see your business plan. So I said to her, what possibly could be the business plan for selling wachi, madam? And she met me at the wachi spot to say this to me. So I think the biggest bane to the development of so many of us has been because we have preoccupied our thoughts with theoretical aspects of life as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. I think we'd have to, the Ashantis will say Google. I think we'll have to get natural, get ideal, get practical, and just go for it. You know, I think it's not the fault of so many people because that's been our educational system. It's not been as practical as we expect it to be. But as much as possible, I've said to potential entrepreneurs, the classroom is supposed to teach you the theoretical bits to give you a thinking cap that could make you think outside of the box when you are on the practical fields, which is also called the battlefields, especially with your entrepreneurial journey. So get passionate about what you want to do. Identify yourself. Serve someone if nothing is working. There are so many people who also would just want to get up and be entrepreneurs overnight. It doesn't work like that. You'd have to say yes, massa as well at a point in time. And you just may not know which mentor may lead you to the promised land. That's what we call the godfatherhood. Godfatherhood?
Godfather idea, the concept.
Godfather kind of a concept, right, or a godmother kind of a concept. So I think we should be prepared to also get respectful on our diverse fields. If you work for someone, bless you, there's no problem. What could be wrong with working for someone? One day you could work for yourself. And if you're attached to the same seriousness, there's the same seriousness that'll be attached to your job if you become an employer one day as well. So passion, zeal, ambition, productivity, and spirituality. I think there's just someone up there who could just be watching at all points in time. We can't do without God. That's a strong belief I've always had. God blesses it, it's blessed.
And I said amen to that.
Amen.
Rashida, just before I sign off, just a thought that occurred to me. In the days when, before you moved to the corporate office, when you used to sell the food yourself and hold the ladder and wear the apron, what time did
it was actually the corporate office before this. Wachi was one of my last affiliates, actually.
What time did your day start?
My day starts at any time, any day. My day could start at 4 a.m. I don't sleep at night. I have terrible insomnia. At 2 a.m., some people call to order for like 250 or 300 packs of wachi at close to midnight. They called me, I picked up. We spoke and we hanged up. At 1 a.m., they called back. Okay, can you add 100 more packs? I still said okay to that.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
A client called you at midnight to order?
Almost midnight.
300
packs of wachi.
And
they're just behind again. You. See that church right here.
And they called again.
And an hour later, close to 1 a.m., they call again. Can you add another 100 packs? Yes, please.
And you didn't get upset?
Never would I get upset. And I will make sure everything works out. I went down myself. I went to do the packaging myself because it was just too late to get in touch with most of my workers. I got a few trusted people who I believed would pick up my calls. And then I got them ready for the following day. And that was when we packaged and delivered right on time. They needed it at 7:30 a.m.
Rashida, it's been a beautiful conversation, learning from you.
Thank you so much.
And getting into the engine room. And the last one, or the last closing one, is the most beautiful one.
Thank you very much for having me.
For anyone listening out there, if your client called you at 12 midnight and you thought that was the end, they'll call you again at 1 a.m. to add 100 more packs, and don't be upset. This has been a conversation with Rashida, Saani, Nasamu, the CEO of the Isaiah Group, and she's been sharing with us the engine room dimensions of growing a multi-dimensional conglomerate. On behalf of Team Springboard, led by Comfort, this has been Albert Okran in the engine room with Rashida. And I want to say a big thank you to MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, the Graphic Business. And look out for Rashida's story in the Graphic Business on Tuesday, page 18, the full page. It's about Rashida. She'll tell you everything that she said in print. So have you thought about writing a book?
No, I haven't thought about it.
Next time I interview you, we'll talk about your book.
I feel I'm still young. It's
younger,
too early.
The younger, the better.
Wait till I actualize. I'm waiting for my self-actualization.
Can you ever actualize?
Sorry?
Can you ever actualize?
Yes, maybe when I actualize. Who knows? That's when we'll start the ice cream business for fun.
This ice cream and
instead of getting into politics.
Thank you. My name is Albert. God bless you. God bless you. And God bless you. We are out.